This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. We speak from our personal experiences and opinions. The views expressed are solely those of the individual speaker and are not intended to malign any group, club, organization, or business.
Okay, so another little episode here with Rachel Bernstein of Indoctrination, and just has been a really awesome educator and partner as well with me and my group in understanding what the heck have we been a part of and what have we been involved with. What was the good stuff and what was the bad stuff and how do we sort all that out and like that. So I asked Rachel to come on today and talk to me a little bit about some of these terms that are getting it's so great they're getting known, but on the other hand, they're also getting very watered down and misunderstood. So today I thought we would look at love bombing. And I remember in one of our sessions, I had a whole question for you about this because as a program leader who was to succeed in my accountability and my role in my job as an employee and staff member and senior program leader, I had to have a lot of volunteers doing jobs like producing. And one of the ways that you did that is acknowledging and appreciating them. And I like acknowledging and appreciating people. So I had a whole question about, okay, wait, what is love bombing? How do I know when it's manipulative versus sincere? So why don't we first start with what is love bombing?
Okay, so love bombing is a manipulative tactic for a particular purpose. It's not just sharing your appreciation in this lovely, spontaneous way. It is meant to have people respond well to you very quickly, to fast track people's loyalty and connection to you. And it is also a way where if someone feels they're being complimented and loved, they're not necessarily going to be as critical or as skeptical of you and of what you're providing for them because you make them feel good. So it's all about what the intention is that makes it different than love. Love bombing is to really drop a bomb on someone, to really disarm them, to really build a false sense of something, not a real sense. And the false sense is of this loyalty, but also I think a false sense of intimacy, of safety with you, and to be able to have them like you, trust you by you releasing chemicals in them. We live in a world sometimes where we don't hear what we need to hear and what we want to hear and what our psyche needs. And we haven't heard it from our parents, or maybe we haven't heard it for a long time from our parents or our loved ones or whatever else. So when someone says even small things like, oh, that looks great on you, when they're walking down the street, it changes your whole day. And so I think people know how wonderful it feels. And then the love bombing is, and what can I then cause in you so that I can then get something from you? So really is this, it's like with love, you just give it. Love bombing is circular. What can I get back? What can you show me that shows that it worked? Yeah, go ahead.
Here's kind of a sneaky thing because I'm pretty uncomfortable with, oh, that's really pretty, or you look great today. Like that's always made me uncomfortable. I think that made me uncomfortable from when I was 5'11" by the 6th grade.
Right.
So I was, tall, pretty. So pretty early on, I learned that compliments usually came with a request or a demand, mostly from men. So I was just always, plus I always felt awkward. And I mean, I was like so clumsy and whatever. So that kind of acknowledgement never really worked on me. So if somebody had come to me, when I first started participating in Landmark, it's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I probably would have run for the hills. That's not what happened. And this is tell me if this is love bombing, because this is what it really was like. It's like, you have no idea who you really are, Rachel. You are extraordinary. You are a leader. You're not a follower. You're a leader. You can make anything happen for yourself in your life. If you're just willing, their tang is to invent as a possibility, but it's also if you're willing to do the work to get rid of your limiting beliefs, but it's like this bar setting of the kind of person that you could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it always comes, it's interesting what you said about circular, but there's something you have to do to get at it. And it usually involves whoever the love bomber is, right? It involves
Right. Yeah.
that. I mean, we've seen this in relationships, right? Like,
Yeah.
you are great as long as you're with me. And
Right.
one of the biggest things that I've dealt with, I remember I technically left the group. I left Landmark's employee in 2012. And then I set up my own business and I hosted, but I was still, I was deeply involved with all the principles, hosting the source and all this and that. I remember along the time thinking sometimes, okay, this is amazing. I'm doing incredible stuff. I'm traveling the world. I'm blah, 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 blah. I'm being very successful. But if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be any of that. And sure enough, as soon as I didn't, now they helped make sure of that by threatening me in all kinds of ways and whatnot. But that was when I started to realize the level of manipulation and love, like all that self-expression and self-confidence was very dependent on my position on that. Like, and only now am I starting to realize, ooh, that leaves me fundamentally weak, not strong.
Right. Absolutely. And so there are a couple of things also with love bombing that are interesting because it is true. I'm just making a note because I want to make sure. Okay, there we go. Now I can go to this other point and then come back to the other one. So that's my teaching brain. I have like lesson plans in my head, like what leads into what makes sense. So there is this wonderful thing that's very genuine that it can feel genuine here, but it happens in the world outside of love bombing, where if you think someone sees what's possible in you, you then can have a greater chance of stepping into those shoes because people see it in you. It's like drives me crazy when my kids were little and I'd be dropping them off from school and I'd hear a parent say, "Now remember, be good." And I'm thinking, really? What? Why are you doing that? Because then the kid will feel like unless they're told by their parent to be good, they are not, and their parent clearly doesn't trust them, and
it's like your default setting is bad, and you've got to remember to be good.
Right. And so all they have to do is sort of not be bad. Like, what about, see what's possible today? Like, I can't wait to hear about what you learned and what you did and what you saw and who you helped or what, just something about who you are as a person. There is also something interesting, though, about love bombing, which is that the purposeful piece of it is if you tell someone they have leadership qualities, they might say, if they really were free to use them in any way, they might say, "Thank you so much for letting me know that." So what that means to me is I can't be here anymore because I need to follow in this space. I can't really lead. And so I'm going to go somewhere else and see if I can lead an organization or become a CEO over there. But if you say you have leadership qualities, sometimes it's to help people feel like they can be leaders within the group. So you're kind of setting people up to stay within the group and work for the group or do something that really keeps the machine well oiled, right? Like there is this other piece to it. Like, oh, I see you're such a good independent thinker. Great, good to know. That means I'm out, right? Like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. So
I see that you're a leader. So have you considered the Introduction Leaders Program? And here's the part that for me that gets tricky. I was one of those people that said that stuff. And I said it because I really believed it. And to a certain extent too, I coached that program. I was in that program. That program made one of the most, striking differences for me was the leadership program. And I hold on to that value. But when it comes with it's just harder when it comes with an invitation to act or to do something or whatnot. Now, but it feels like to just throw that out is bad as well. Like that's not helpful either. I mean, there is like, oh my God, Rachel, you're so much fun. I'd love for you to come over to dinner sometime. Like, let's do dinner
Mhm.
when I'm in
Mhm.
town.
Right.
That's sincere.
Yes. Yes.
So how do we sort those sincere moments and expressions out from the manipulative ones? Is there like a
Right.
sign?
Well, so I think one of the things for people to notice is if what's happening next is based on the principle of reciprocity. Like,
Mm,
I've now given you this thing. I've made you feel confident in these ways. Now, what are you going to do for the group? How are you going to use that in a way that works here, that serves us? What are you going to give back for it? Love bombing
mm,
does sometimes do that. Like they'll reward or they'll gift people back who have love bombed them with trust, with things that are priceless,
yeah.
with making sacrifices for the group, for those people. So if it feels reciprocal, like then there's this expectation, unspoken expectation, but pressure, you get it, and you
Yeah.
can sense it, that there is this need for you to then feel a bit indebted or a lot indebted for this gift that you're receiving of the affirmation and the confidence in you. Then it wasn't just given unconditionally, and to
Right.
notice if there's a condition like, okay, you might have leadership qualities, but that doesn't mean that I want you to leave and use them. It means I want you to use them here. And
Uh-huh.
so there is something that there's a distinction in the, and now what do you, it's like I'm thinking of the Moonies, the Unification Church, where they would hand
Mhm.
out flowers and then they put their hand out like, and what are you going to give me for this thing that you didn't ask for?
Well,
What?
Cialdini talks about that, right? Like in his book Influence, right? Reciprocity.
Mhm.
Like if I give you, it's the whole thing in marketing why we give tripwires, lead magnets and tripwires. So a lead magnet is something
Mhm.
you give free in order
Mhm.
to gain attention and loyalty.
Mhm.
Tripwire is something in marketing terms, it's where you have a low cost thing, like come and do
Mhm.
this thing, it's $10, it's $5, something a low cost, but it also engenders loyalty. It starts to evoke
Mhm.
that kind of like, okay, you gave me something, so I've got to give you something kind of thing. And as well as I've invested here. So it starts the whole, I can't think of the term all of a sudden,
Right. The
sunk
whole,
cost fallacy, right?
yeah,
So
totally.
I've
Yeah.
put in time, money, and effort. So I should just keep going in this route, even though something maybe doesn't feel right or doesn't feel comfortable or
Right.
something.
Absolutely right. There's also another way to tell sometimes
Okay.
between love and love bombing. And love comes with unconditional acceptance. Love bombing comes with conditionality.
Mm,
I see you in this way, and I want you to just see you in this way because this is what's going to serve our relationship. And what's sort of going to help me position myself in this group because I've gotten you to do something that makes both of us look good. And sometimes you can also tell by the intensity. Like there are people who might just say something in passing, like, that was so cool. You really think well on your feet. I love the way you said that. And you could say, oh, thanks. But if you just say, oh, thanks, and sort of walk away, and the person says, no, I need for you to really hear what I'm saying, and that you're sort of backing the person up against the wall, like,
yeah.
get this, take this in. That level of intensity is something that is a red flag because they have the need to give you that message more than you might have an interest in taking it in. So, what are they getting from that? And so, who is this about? You know?
Right. Right. Well, and then I think, and then in the most extreme cases, and this is what I said when, some people started to come to me about for help when, Werner's verbal and physical abuse, but somebody
Yeah.
who loves you and is standing for your greatness is not hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things do not exist in the same
Mm-hmm.
domain. And that it sounds obvious. Like when I'm saying it now, it sounds obvious, but when you're caught up in a relationship where somebody is like, you're my everything, you're my muse, you're a leader, you're incredible, da 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 da, and that gives me the right to challenge you, to push you, to harm you. And verbal
Mhm.
assault is harmful, right? So verbal
Mhm.
assault, somebody is calling you names. Oh, sorry, verbal assault is where somebody's threatening you in some way. If you don't X, then you're going to Y,
Right.
right? So, and then
Mhm.
abuse is where they're calling you names, diminishing you, putting you down. So that's when it gets to the most extreme cases
Mhm.
in an
Yeah.
abusive relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, a personal development relationship, or a work environment. Same thing. If you
Mhm.
have a boss
Right. Right.
who's like, on the one hand, you're the most amazing, your potential is incredible, but you are just being a total asshole in this thing, and you need to deal with yourself, and and they start putting you down. Like the two things in contrast with each other
Mhm.
feels to
Mhm.
me like that's another place where I'm the love is to manipulate me to take the abuse.
Yes, right. To lower your defenses to it, to also think that it's for your benefit. The no pain, no gain, you know. I wouldn't be saying this to you unless I cared. The other
Mm.
part that happens in a lot of these groups in general, and in some manipulative relationships too, because I've seen it there as well. If you notice that the more you expose yourself, the more vulnerable you make yourself, the more stories you share of trauma, of disappointment, the more you cry, the more you're shown love, that's not love. That is that people are praising you, conditioning you to keep putting yourself in these very open, vulnerable spaces.
Mm.
And the hugs you get after, that's also not love. That's look how powerful this space is. And look what it created. It created someone to get to their deepest, darkest everything and talk about their worst fears or their biggest traumas, and then people might then be hugged and surrounded with love. But that was also manufactured. There wasn't something truly authentic about that. It didn't happen when the person decided they were ready to do that. But it does breed closeness. It does breed a sense of
Yeah.
like intimacy and safety. These are people who now really know me and get me. But I could see, I'm coming maybe into this place feeling kind of isolated, feeling alone. But I see that someone else seems to be getting a lot of love for sharing about how they were abused as a child. That's not something I usually talk about, but maybe I'll get that being surrounded by love if I share this. There are times in therapy that I'll slow people down because after coming out of a group like this, they'll think they need to please me by sharing their worst stories right away. And I
Mm.
will often say, it's not that I don't want to hear it, but you don't know me yet. Like, why don't you start small? See how I respond to the thing you shared that might not be as emotional. Kind of test me to see if this would be a safe space. Don't think you need to do it in order for me to like you or in order for me to give you praise.
Mm.
People in these groups are kind of set up for that sometimes.
Yeah, well, you're definitely, I mean, the one who reveals the most, overcomes the most, survives the most, definitely wins because it's an emotional hook. We all that kind of, and that gets taken from as authenticity. Like if it's
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
terrible, I reveal, you and I just had a great conversation looking at where I've been inauthentic about being authentic or whatever. But that whole system was based
Right.
on it's only through the dirt and the grime and the ugliness
Mm-hmm.
and the hurt and the harm that
Yeah.
I am healing, that I'm cleansing, that I'm growing, that I'm evolving kind of thing is all in the background. But yeah, in a group environment, it definitely wins you points, to be the one that
Yeah.
says.
Right.
And my concern with that, I mean, there's a lot, but one of the big ones is quite often, and I will speak as one of the leaders that sat on the stage a lot. And I did have a lot of training and a lot more training than, frankly, a lot of other landmark leaders just because of the
Yeah.
division I was in. And we were the
Mm-hmm.
well-being group. So we had quite a bit of training and holding space for people to be well and not pushing them and not, and having people back off if you could see that it was too emotional or intense. That wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
way in the centers division, but you I'm going to say as a leader, I did not have sufficient training to be guiding people through those moments. Really. I didn't understand trauma. I didn't understand that by having people tell sometimes their painful story over and over and over, you're actually re-traumatizing or further myelinating the negative patterns in our brain. I didn't have any of that then. I have it more now from, further study and whatnot. But that's the other piece is who's listening, and do they have the skills, as it were, to listen in a way
Yeah,
that's
right.
really helpful. That's a really good point, Rachel, because it's not that we can then only talk about our deep secrets with trained therapists. And I've known plenty of trained therapists that also aren't necessarily that great.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
that's not a thing, but at least is who you're interacting with. Like, you want to
Yeah.
know, like, if you're going into a program, you want to know who you're talking to, what their background is, what they believe about that, and then cross-check it against other ideas and sources and whatnot.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, oh, sorry. What did you
Yeah,
say?
no, go ahead.
There's something also that happens where people worry about feeling rejected if they don't share. They can see that people don't seem as happy with them, or they're not offering them as much praise because they are not opening up about something. But it could be they don't have a something. They didn't experience trauma, and they might feel like, oh, do I have to manufacture a story in order to get what I
That
need here?
that is, I don't know if this officially qualifies as abuse, but I now relate to it as abuse. That's a big thing in the staff area is, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? What are you hiding? And I've since learned about a process that was a part of the early part of the S days and leadership dynamics and Synanon, like some of these groups, was where you would put a person in front and you would basically just go at them until they confessed. Because the idea is that everybody has some sort of deviant or criminal or bad behavior. And it's the hiding of that bad behavior that, this is the theory, it's the hiding of that bad behavior. It's the suppressing of that bad behavior, bad meaning harmful to yourself or another, right? That is the problem. So if you just bring it up and confess, then you're free. And I think that goes with, because in the moment of confessing, we do kind of feel free. We're kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, I got that off my chest. But was getting that off your chest really what was needed to move forward in whatever area? Like, maybe, maybe not. Or maybe, but it needed to, it needs to be with the right accountability partner or healing part, somebody who can kind of help you work through the ramifications
Right.
of bringing that up. To me,
Right.
that's a little like, ooh, and I work with a lot of practitioners. I have a safe practitioner workshop. I train, work with practitioners to really examine what in your practices, in your teaching, your marketing, all that, what is edging you towards being a safe practitioner versus what is taking you away from that, sometimes without you even understanding or realizing it because it's so acceptable.
Right. I think, there is this idea that if you approach everyone telling them that they're hiding something and what are you hiding, it's like they're on the witness stand. This isn't really kind of therapy. And I don't know if it's large group awareness training even at that point, but you're really pushing someone as though you see them as this perpetrator, like, what is it that you haven't told me? And then if you're really not qualified to know what to do with the information once they share it, don't push them to share it. And that's also, I think, inherently disrespectful. Like, oh, you're just going to hand me all this stuff. Like, oh, like you're going to give me your infant, let's say, but I've never held a baby before. Like,
Yeah.
thanks, but I don't know what to do with it now safely. And so don't say, hand me your baby if you don't know what to do with a baby. I think that there is something also about the way people in Landmark and other groups are taught to respond to other people, where they can then go into action steps. They can tell people what they need to do to get rid of those feelings or whatever else. So they're really not helping them deal with it. I mean, I remember there was someone I knew who had been in Est and then Landmark training, and I remember sharing something with him, and I didn't know he had done it, but I suddenly heard it. because I had gotten my car out of some place where it was parked by somebody else. I went to go see something, I don't remember what, and it got scratched. But you have to sign your life away when you go in, and you're not going to hold them responsible for anything. And I was bummed, like, oh man. And it was whatever, I don't know, it's a lease and a story. But I just said, it's such a bummer because I need my car every day and I know I'm going to have to bring it in somewhere to whatever, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. And immediately he said, "You are not your car." And I thought, what?
Oh yeah, that's
Like,
definitely one person.
like, how is that going to help me?
Was
How?
I implying that I was my car?
I'm looking at myself like, no, I don't have 4 tires. I know that I'm not my car. But I saw what he had been trained to think was helpful in that moment, which was to help me disconnect from my reaction, to help me disconnect from my emotions around it. But that doesn't help. That's not what I needed. I needed for the person I was talking to say, that sucks. I'm so, I know. I hate that. Just commiserate. Just be with me in it. They couldn't fix it. I didn't need therapy. Just be like, have a human connection around it. But it went right into problem solving, which I think made me feel, I think, suddenly alone. Like I was just standing there by myself, right? There was no connection, it
Well,
was
that's
interesting.
to me, that's one of the core problems of the whole kind of, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and it persists today. But the human potential movement it is very much about managing and bypassing our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think there's a happy medium. Yeah, I don't have to be completely wallowing, controlled, taken out by my feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
But I also don't have to reject them. It's a
Mm-hmm.
part of being human, and to learn to navigate with them
Mm-hmm.
is the
Yeah.
healthier thing. That's what I've, so much of it, while claiming not that, but really that's what was happening, is like, oh
Yeah.
no, I need to move past that. I need to get out of that. Oh, this is harmful. This is hurtful. This is da, da, da.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to move. And I've said that even in my own deconstruction and
Mm-hmm.
recovery,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
of these ideas, and like to pulling them out now and really examining them, and and I'm like, I don't really want to feel
Right.
that. I've had that with my daughter all the time. My daughter's like all feelings. She's very deeply, deeply connected to her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
She was hilarious one time. She's like, "Mom, feel your feelings." And I'm like, "What feelings? What are you talking about?" So, and I think the happy medium is sort of between her and I, right? Like she's far on this side and I'm too far on
Right.
this side. So together we've been learning how to be more of a whole experience. All right. Well, I think that's a good run on love bombing. So let's
Mm-hmm.
jump into our next one
Cool.
and see what we can discover next.